Hey everybody, welcome back. It's later in the week here. I'm recording this ahead of Friday, but you know, by now you should have your rewrite of the student tuition reaction story, as well as the Megalomania assignment in. As I'm speaking right now, again ahead of Friday. I graded 8 of the Megalomania papers, and there were 2 A's and 6. Actually, 1 A, I'm sorry, 1 C plus and 6 R's. So I feel like, it's probably on me, probably need to explain this a little better. That is one of the problems. I mean, this assignment I've done for many years, not every single semester, but I've done it many years. And it's interesting because it's not the papers I graded actually were not as far away as you might think, as I noted on a bunch of the papers, but I mean, I could tell that basically what I read so far is that you did it. I know you did at least get a hold of the bill. I did give it an extension because I know people were struggling with it and that sort of thing. So, um, I will talk about that in a bit. But just make sure I wanted to let you know that I was actually really pleased with the student tuition reaction assignment. You should like look at that as an example of a story that will follow along the lines of the feature story we're also doing, which is also due. That's due on Monday, and I will be talking about that too. The anecdotes are really what kind of carry these stories, these types of stories, like the student tuition reaction story, the feature story. Perhaps there was some confusion there because the megalomania story is not an anecdotal story. And I want to actually show you here, and maybe I didn't discern this effectively. So let me just share the screen here. Um, so what I was trying to show you is like the kind of story with the story out the structure outline would be typically for a story like along the lines of something like a student reaction story or a feature story or something like that that has anecdotes. But most stories are actually written like this, okay, with a lead and a transition that brings up one point, a transition that brings up another point, a transition that brings up another point, another transition that brings up another point. Okay. Fuller stories or featurey stories that we've been talking about, they actually will bring us even deeper and maybe add an anecdote and a direct quote. Okay. An anecdote and a direct quote. Okay. But this story we're doing on Bronson and safe to say about him, I can say that it seems appears that be heading in this direction, him leaving and why. It's almost like a police story. Okay. If I call it a police story where somebody like, I mean, I know this is really like maybe a horrible comparison, but let's say like police well maybe I wasn't gonna do something more extreme, but about a police story on robbery suspect captured. The initial story is not going to be like this story that has all this kind of depth and anecdotes and that sort of thing. It's just going to have the basic facts. Okay. Um, like this television story right here. Okay. And it's going to probably maybe try to get a little bit into the why this happened, where this happened. Yeah, I know this actually like I was telling people to kind of like focus on the person itself. This actually goes along the lines with goes in the opposite direction of that. But it says the police department announced that one suspect has been caught in armed robbery at a business. Posted images of the surveillance video of the suspects and basically got the people. Okay, but you can see there's really not a lot of depth to these stories other than just basically the basic events that happened and and who they're looking for and who they got. Okay. Um. Okay. Where it happened, where they were arrested. One man had a handgun. Okay. stole an undisclosed amount of money. So that's basically, they're gonna report like what they went for, why that happened. So this was a robbery where people were caught because they stole an undisclosed amount of cash, okay? I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit of a pinwheel here. My computer's a little bit stuck, okay. So anyway, they're known they're from out of state and are known to visit the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So there's some very basic information here. So what they did was they caught these people, and this is what they stole. So they were out to get money, and that was the reason, the motivation. Okay, it's a breaking news story. Okay, people in that neighborhood want to know. Oh my God, an armed robbery! People are carrying a gun in Mississippi. Picayune. That's probably not one of the big cities in Mississippi. I take it. But I mean, it's been maybe all six of them, maybe five of the six, if they just had the simple information in there that basically talked about why this is such a bigger story than, and I'll say it because I think everybody's figured out by now, the resignation, okay? One thing I didn't show you before was because when somebody does something that like throw a wild party, let's say, for example, and they have something like dog fighting. Ooh, I'm giving some details away. You know, as much as you're a reporter hat when you're doing these stories, and think about like what you would really want to know. If you're stepping into a store and you're 14 years ago, what you had was basically what happened was Exxon, despite its monstrous status as a big gas company or something like that, people avoided for a very long time. Gas and their money, they lost money, they lost profits, that sort of thing. When you do something bad and hurt your reputation, okay? Even if it's like one person. And then, I mean, another thing I saw also was I saw some people actually kind of writing in the press release speak, like, oh, it's amazing, almost like what Megalomania is doing now. They're building a diverse company, blah blah blah. Yeah, but how do we know they didn't actually like when all these bad things were happening involving their CEO? How did we know that they didn't find out about this or know about this like months ago and just kind of let it happen and maybe it just kind of leaked? Okay. That's what, we've seen this kind of thing happen all the time with these kinds of stories, is people just basically, you know, they're forced to actually release information only because they have to get control of the information because it's bad information. It can make them look even worse if they're sitting on the information. So they have to come out with it. Maybe somebody leaked information. You just never know. So we can't suddenly like make declarations with adjectives and something like that. I also saw places where people were making like offering analysis and opinion stuff like that. It's all about like what this guy did and the bad stuff he did. I mean, what it was. This guy leaving and basically the bad stuff he did that caused him to leave. Okay. Trying to call up an example. This is my magazine right here. Okay. And what it has is basically it has this section. It's just going really slowly for some reason, where they report on different executive changes, people leaving companies. Okay. And I'm trying to get to the place where I want to go, but it's not going there. Okay, come on now. Let's go. Here we go. Okay. All right. Now, Everest Group promotes executive lead insurance business and names global insurance bearer. Okay. Sampo Japan names successor to retiring CEO. So why am I showing you this stuff? Because this happens all the time. People leave companies for whatever reasons, because they want to spend more time with their family, because they want to basically retire, because maybe they're not doing good enough job. But there's really nothing scandalous in that. Okay. Hiscox appointed blah 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 as chief operating officer. Okay, she's taking over his 20 years of insurance experience. Sampo Japan named successor to retiring CRO, who retired. Okay. Maki has stepped down for positions from her positions from Sampo Japan after announcing retirement. So this kind of thing happens all the time. What you have here with this Bronson story is something that goes way beyond this. He left because he did bad things. Okay. I don't usually try to give away to like the lead to the assignment, this assignment, when I've done it before, because it's pretty sensitive information, that sort of thing. But I felt like I kind of had to, okay? I also do another thing. I don't actually show this video typically before, before the assignment is actually completed and done. But this Bronson story actually sort of did happen. It was just it involved different people, okay? There was a Tyco CEO, Dennis Kozlowski. And I'm going to refer to this right now if you want to find it on YouTube. And he was basically, he actually did face jail time and that sort of thing. So he actually did go beyond. So it's not the Bronson story identically, okay, but it's pretty close. So I'll be showing that to you pretty soon and everything. And because we don't have a lot of time and everything, you know, it's fair for me. I think I'd actually show you this, okay? But this guy spent money like nobody spent money, okay? And he spent it on some really piggish things, okay? And he was in charge of a company like Megalomania that was huge and big and that sort of thing. It wasn't in the entertainment industry like Megalomania, but basically, you know, you know, made money hand over fist like Megalomania. Only that they had a leader who basically almost sunk the company because he just went out and did some bad things. And if you watch that video, actually, you'll find like actually some real similarities to what Bronson did. So I really strongly suggest that. Okay. Um, you also got my note earlier in the week about, you know, how do you, you know, I think people did actually follow up on this and I appreciate this, but you know, one thing I didn't really explain well is that like again, when you have a situation with information that largely comes from the internet or something like that, or you know, it's given to you through the internet or through email or that sort of thing. This is how people actually like get a lot of their information now. It's not always through somebody's mouth this information comes. It comes through like maybe the form of an expense voucher or something like that. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to report that information and then you basically say according to the expense voucher, or as I said, maybe just say according to company reports or something. Okay. So you need to attribute that information. Some people fail to do that, so please pay attention. Okay, so basically what you have here is you don't necessarily have like the biggest research story in the world, okay? What you have is a story that basically about, you know, again, I showed you, please take a look at the Ahmaud Arbery case that I talked about at the end of the last video, where I talked about where you have a case, I talked about a case where it didn't actually reveal everything that came, you know, that needed to come out when it first happened. Okay. You have basically somebody who resigned and the company's gonna like show you and basically give you a release and hope that you spin the story in their direction. Okay. But what you need to do is you need to go beyond that and show maybe like, okay, maybe the company was totally innocent here, but we don't know that. We can't just assume that. Okay. The company's saying that I think somebody said like saying like the company has very strict policies and doesn't allow this to happen. Well, they're saying that, okay? We don't know that. So what you need to do is you need to actually attribute that information to the company, say according to the company or according to Megalomania, or the company said they have this, okay? Because that essentially is makes the statement factual. You're reporting not necessarily on the content of what somebody said, but the fact that somebody said it, okay? Actually, I use this as an example. That's why attribution is so important, okay? So not this way, okay? Get out of here. Okay, I got a pinwheel. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. I may have shown this before, okay? Again, Joe Biden is president. Joe Biden is a bad president, he said, okay? Now, which one of those statements is accurate and which one is not accurate, or which one is opinionated and which one is not, okay? Give me a second to think. Okay, so here's the deal. They're both factual statements. I'm not saying Joe Biden is a bad president is a factual statement, okay? I'm saying that this is a statement. You're reporting what somebody is saying. The actual action here that's being taken is saying something coming out of their mouth, okay? Or maybe it came out according to a document leaked by the White House. That also is an accurate statement because the document was leaked by the White House. Okay? So that part of it makes it a factual statement. This part, if this was not here, this would not be a factual statement. It'd be opinion. Okay. And I know some people might say, like, that is a factual statement. But anyway, whatever. This is what's covers your ass, CYA. Okay. Now, of course, this is an accurate statement because he is president. Okay. Despite what some lunatics say. But that's why you need the attribution. Okay. To cover your bases, to show that this comes from somewhere. Okay. All right. So let's, I actually fully expect people to actually like really turn it around and actually get a lot of A's on this assignment because, I did give you extra time, that sort of thing. I'm hoping that maybe this video will help, that sort of thing. Okay. But anyway, you just got to remember that, like, that's what this story is. It's a breaking news story. Again, for a more full in-depth story, then you would search for the anecdotes and that sort of thing, as I showed you guys before. But at the same time, what you need to do is you need to, but there's also stories that just basically are all about the facts and that's it, and just basically reporting and getting it out there and get the information out there. That's it. Okay. All right. Now on to the feature assignment. Okay. I wanted to show you actually that this was on before and now it's not. I wanted to show you that there are chapters that actually deal with the feature assignment. Again, what you need to think about, again, there is a discussion point for this. Let's see, wow, that's actually turning on right now. Let's check how the discussion point is doing. Remember, that's also class participation, okay? So let's see what we got here. Going very slowly. Okay, good. Well, you got 7, okay? I can unpin this one now. Okay, good. Okay, so you basically have information right here that helps you develop the story. Basically, put these people from our class basically put their they put on their it's hoping for a little bit longer statement than this, but something that basically shows like some sort of an anecdote. I've been enjoying the warmer weather lately, but also feels a little consistent. It's been hot and sunny. It's allowed me to go to the beach, get a good tan. But towards the end of the night, it can get windy. The forecast, blah, blah. So that being a good anecdote, basically showing there that like it's a good time to get tan, that sort of thing. It's not really bothering them this so much. Then you got people here that maybe show a little bit of mixed opinions. The humidity, um, you know, trying to look for like maybe a little bit, to be honest with you, some deeper opinions here because there's really not a lot of anecdotes here. Okay. All right. But but talking about the beach, that's good. But maybe like talking about things like, having to like go to, you're not really going to school, but like having to spend some time like going into watch a class. And I could be like out there like enjoying the hot weather in the summertime is may suck. Maybe you have a problem with an air conditioner that's not working or something like that. Okay. So here we go. Sometimes I forget the temperature is outside, and since I have been in an air conditioned room for a while, and I go outside, I'm surprised by how hot it is. That's good anecdotal information right there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right here. All right. All right. Um. All right. So anyway. So yeah, let's make sure that we contribute to that. Okay. All right. Now chapters 8 and 12, again, they kind of like go into the area I was talking about before about I showed you guys where I have actual information on I provide information on the modules and everything about how to write a feature story, that sort of thing. The book actually deals with it too. I don't feel like it deals with it adequately enough. Okay. But here you have what they call alternative leads. Okay. And what they do is they actually show like how we could take like maybe like a story that maybe is like that straightforward story, like the Marv Bronson story, and maybe not when you're actually trying to break the story, but maybe later on you might do like a feature story on Bronson. This is this typical thing you do when you would do like follow-ups or that sort of thing, or like I said, sidebars, side stories that kind of get more in depth. I was actually just looking at like Willie Mays dying, okay, and you know he was a very famous news, probably the most famous, maybe outside of Babe Ruth. I don't know. baseball player of all time. I always appreciate him because he was a Met at one time. But anyway, um, so as we go through here, you see Willie Mays, blah blah blah, and then what they have is they have like what they call a sidebar that kind of goes into more of a feature depth story. Okay, but the obituary itself is very straight. Talks about Mays was considered one of the most flamboyant, maybe best players ever. That's died. Okay, but then it goes into some sort of like story that kind of talks about how he dealt with racial strife and that sort of thing, and how he overcame like a lot of like obstacles in order to get to where he got. So that's when you go kind of going more into depth. Okay. All right. So both, it says right here, like you could like basically like take like leads in different ways, but when you're first breaking the story, you just want to really get the information out there. Like with this one right here, city officials Wednesday night debate the possibility of a tax increase for race, blah blah blah. But then maybe like later on, you want to kind of get it, after they've read that story, and this is what you do with the internet now. You actually can go on back on there and rewrite it in maybe a featurey kind of like more engaging way. City officials are going to need a pretty big rabbit's foot to keep the city's budget in the black. And that's where you can kind of come out with something that probably is like maybe a little bit like engaging, kind of quippy, that sort of thing. All right. Maybe just like an extra graph, that sort of thing. But when the news first breaks, they just want the news straight. Okay. We have a summary lead, which is typically the lead we've been writing. All government agents officials see the continued use of virtual meetings, which skyrocketed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Or you do like something like this, basically like again, this would be something that'd be like more engaging for the reader who probably wants to read the whole story. And that's in the minority, those types of readers, but you want to appeal to them too. When Washington, D.C., free and franchised people serving time for felonies, blah, blah, blah. Joel Caston, then a D.C. sentence. Realize that you can not only get a vote, you can also run for commissioner. If you can find a way to participate in any ANC before he's from jail, he could serve out his term in office. So basically what that does is it takes like maybe like one piece of an example of how basically government is basically going like, can be used in a way that actually like, virtual meetings have become effective and that sort of thing, maybe more in depth, more engaging. But if you're just trying to report the story and get it out quickly, these are two different audiences. This is for the person who wants to read very quickly, and this is for the person who wants to read very slowly and engage. Okay, which is what the old-fashioned magazines used to do. Okay. Um. Okay. And we want to avoid opinion in these stories. Okay, just like I was talking about with like want to avoid the analysis and the make a mini story. Again, the idea is that it's just maybe you get a little more descriptive or something like that. Okay. See, a bury or delete lead is also the term for the anecdotal lead. Okay. Here are two examples of buried leads, and again, the idea is to maybe engage and be more suspenseful, that sort of thing. Spent less than 2 weeks. An elementary school and grocery store more than 1,700 miles apart were shattered by gun violence. Uvalde, Texas, and Buffalo, New York now share the tragic loss of family, friends and family. Okay. Two tragedies happen on separate countries, but they both share similarities, how the violence is carried out. So this is a story that kind of takes like two tragedies, and when they actually happened, they were breaking news stories, obviously. But and what you do is maybe several weeks later is you come out and basically have some sort of story that basically kind of takes a step back and looks. And again, it's not an analysis piece; it's just basically a story that basically kind of looks at how similar they were in so many different ways. That's what you do when you do like sort of what they call a second write through or a features follow up, is you try to take some sort of an angle that maybe is more abstract or more like engaging and more in depth and that sort of thing. Okay. So you would need maybe like 2 paragraphs to do that or more or something. Okay. I don't like quotation leads. Okay. Let's look at chapter 12, which actually talks about feature stories. Okay. So again, that's like the whole idea is to try to hook the reader in with something a little more interesting, something more suspenseful, as I described in my last week's video. Actually, let me go back to that again. Actually, they had another example there. Um, okay, just give me another second here. While his childhood friends spent their days on the sports fields, Mike Hart spent his day digging through dumps. Again, that's a cliffhanger. It's supposed to kind of leave you wanting, that sort of thing, okay? Trolling the Dietrich, you say that, for old bottles and kerosene lamps, he found fascination in objects of other people cast aside. Now 49 and head of his own historic, now he's actually got this big job and everything that came out of nowhere after he was like digging through dumps. It's basically engaging. It's supposed to almost like kind of surprise you. This guy digging through dumps and everything, if suddenly becomes the head of this historic preservation firm. That's quite a leap. That's quite a jump. It's supposed to kind of show you like this kind of suspenseful kind of steps that we're taking to get to the ultimate big reveal. Okay. So feature stories. People love stories and stories are everywhere. In movies, books, magazines, newspapers, radio, and TV online. They evoke emotions, a craving for adventure after learning about a found shipwreck. Inspiration reading about a child fight through cancer. It's terrible. Feature stories are nonfiction. Okay. They are fact-based storytelling. They are human interest stories because they say something about life. Features are soft news because they exclude the news element of immediacy found in hard news stories. Okay. So the Megalomania story is immediacy. These are not. Okay. So when you're writing about the weather, you're writing about necessarily to tell people, hey, it's hot outside. You're telling people about like how sort of a sharper, softer angle of that is how people are reacting to it. Okay. All right. I mean, it gives you an idea of basically like what stories to look for. Basically, like again, you're not looking for like the crime story. You're looking at maybe like different things that different people are coping through. Usually, these feature stories focus usually, like I said, on maybe a one person profile, or a group of people and how they're dealing with it. Okay, and you really need to bite base. And when you do these stories, you need to like focus on one person at a time. Okay, especially at the top. Don't like go into this whole thing with like, oh, 5 people were going around feeling hot because that's not showing a lot of depth. What you want to do is you want to actually like dig into that person's like on each person's like story, okay, anecdote, one at a time. Because when you do that, you have to show depth, and when you show like what's going on with a group of people or something, okay. So there's like different like softer angles that might be like break like flu or COVID, somebody going through COVID. I mean, COVID's making a big comeback, but maybe you want to show like what people are going through. So you show one person and you write that as a feature story that's really connects with people. First-hand observations, seeing, listening, smelling, touching. Again, the whole idea is that you have basically you try to give people some sort of sense of feeling of what's going on without getting into any kind of opinion. Okay. Um, John Carlyle began a story about a lighthouse. It's a little bit different from what we're doing right now. Not if, but when. See, there's nothing being said there. But the idea is to actually leave you hanging in suspense. Someday soon, a forgotten old lighthouse will crumble in his Lake Michigan. Along with it, the hopes of a man who spent his lifetime trying to save it. After a century of abandonment, blah, 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 the lighthouse will be swallowed by a lake. So it's about this guy who's doing everything he can to preserve it. But what it's doing is it's kind of bringing you in slowly to kind of engage you with some interesting and maybe if not dramatic details. Okay. That sort of thing. Okay. So what I want to do is actually, and I have to admit, like when I've done this before, um, this is actually the feature assignment here. Let me actually have it up before. When I've done this before, like I've shown this, this is actually, I show you a video, and this is actually a video that shows you how to take information from, I don't feel like I speak my best during this video, but I did do it, and I feel like what I do is I offer it to people in the assignment entry as a way to actually like find a way to write these feature stories and how to do it actually just from like, you know, getting the information from the discussion point. And what I felt was a good idea was actually shows you how these stories can be developed and how these anecdotes can be developed for these stories just by taking like somebody's words and just writing them as a paraphrase and writing them with using your own words to build the story. Okay. Basically, just take what people say and shape it in a way that's engaging. It starts with one person, just one person's story, and then goes into a nut graph. And then you hopefully by that point, that one person's story and the nut graph has you hooked and engaged, so you can read more. Okay. And don't forget that is right here, the feature assignment. And then of course, there'll be a rewrite I'll be due a week after that. Okay. So here's a video. So let's look at that video right now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll just have myself talk. But of course, first there's got to be an ad.
Bring similar tabs
All right.
together.
And again, this is how I basically developed a feature story from scratch using the discussion point. Please watch. Okay. Basically, you know, if you probably want to like a big hint about how to handle things here, you just basically take like, I don't know, like I said, I haven't read through all these yet. Okay. But, you know, maybe just take like, let's just take 3. I got Kaylee, Cameron, and Joseph. A little copy here. Okay. And it's like size, so it's not too much of your face. Okay. No, actually, I'm sorry. Do it right here. Let's do. Okay. So maybe we do like a little bit of paste special, cut paste. Okay. All right. So this was Cameron, Kaylee. Copy down the first name here. Sorry. And that was Joseph. Okay, Joseph Zarrell. All right. So anyway, this is what I do actually a lot now, because actually like a lot of the interviews I do actually I get a transcript for. So I literally like will just cut and paste right from it. Just like you do with those news releases, you just cut and paste from it. And then you can kind of shape it so that it actually is your writing. Shape it in your writing and also fit it within the context of your story. You know, use transitional phrases to kind of go from one paragraph to the next or one point to the next. Okay. All right. So we can do something like this. Joseph Zarrell, Joe, I forget what year you're in, but just say like maybe Rutgers. I said the weather as of late has been ridiculous. Some days it's waking up the 70 to 70 to 60 to 70 degree weather and wearing shorts and shades next to you. The next day, again, well, I'm actually paraphrasing here because I can actually cut what he's saying without getting too wordy, you know, and make it easier to read. Okay, and people tend to read paraphrasing and storytelling narrative more than read quotes. Okay, weather is so interesting, especially now because of how random it is. One day it could be beautiful, next day it could just be disgusting and muggy. Which sounds like a pretty good quote. So that's probably like one anecdote or one quote right there. Okay, all right. Then we got Cameron. Spell your name right. Well, it's right there. Let's see here. Cameron Bialo, on the other hand, said she really enjoys the weather. You could do like a partial quote. Maybe even gets to experience going on. You know, we only experienced cold or hot weather instead of both. I think we would get sick of the constant higher temperatures. Yeah. That. Right? Got Kaylee Warden down here. Kaylee, sorry, I forgot her name, I know she's in front of me, Kaylee Warden. Said she has been has been loving the weather this past week. As Rutgers is experiencing, has been, whoops.
Let's get back to us, right off. Oh, look, we're quite good at this. Come on, okay.
She said this is her favorite time of year because you start to see everyone going outside more. And then, like I said, I mean, by paraphrase, you can actually cut down on things that don't sound so repetitive. The changing weather, she has been going out in the sun to do more work or simply bask in the sun. However, I know that the temperature will be going back down soon, and that is concerning because of global warming. Just, all right, so there you go. Now I've just given you essentially like how I mean, now we can stick transitions in between those anecdotes and those quotes. I gave you just 3 of them right there. That's how simple it can be. And then, you know, basically there's also a little bit more description in this kind of story. I can actually like, you try a little bit harder to like try to paint a picture of what everybody's going through. Basically we get to see what Joe is wearing, you know, that sort of thing. Get a little bit, you maybe ask those sorts of questions you're interviewing, or actually you make that observation in your notes wouldn't otherwise make. Like, what are they wearing? You know, how are they acting? What's the expression on their face? That's what kind of thing you do in a feature sheet. Okay. Now, here's again the big difference. Okay, so maybe I add in a transition right here. Add in a transition right here. Then I add in a transition right. Right. All right. But we have to come up with a theme for the story, kind of like liking the hot weather, but not liking the mixed situation so much. Okay. So, you know, you try to think of like maybe what would be a lead for this story. Okay. All right. So Rutgers students, you say they've been frustrated with the gloomy weather recently, but they're pleased that the weather has at least gotten warmer. I know it doesn't sound like earth-shattering news, but again, it's supposed to be an engaging story, a light story. People like the kind of like light features sometimes just because it's something relatable, you know, like I talked about with the clothing and stuff like that. Okay, now here's the big difference. See, I wrote that like a lead, right? Only the big difference here is that's not going to be your lead. That's going to be your nut graph. This is how you can actually like construct this feature story, so that actually you can kind of envision what would look like more as a straight news story, and kind of develop it into a nut graph. What you're going to do is you're going to take one of these anecdotes, maybe from here, okay, and I would take maybe Kaylee's actually. That seemed to kind of like echo the whole sentiment I just expressed there. Basically, sum up the news, the notes you got, which are right there in discussion points, and you put it at the top. Now you have an anecdotal lead. We can always return to Kaylee. We don't have to actually like, you know, leave her high and dry. A lot of times, actually, what they do in these feature stories, they start off with a person, and then they end with the same person. But by starting off with Kaylee, we can actually drill down to maybe her personal frustrations or pleasantries or whatever, that more specific to her. And we could drill down and get more detail. Okay. So that's all. See what I did there? I just moved essentially one anecdote to the top. So now it starts with Kaylee Warden said she's been loving the weather this past week. Rutgers been experiencing 70s and reaching mid-80s. She said this is her favorite time of year because you start to see everyone going outside. With this change in weather, she has been going outside and doing more schoolwork, to read, or to simply bask in the sun. Nice. Like the idea of bask in the sun. That's good writing right there. It's good. Like Kaylee actually provided essentially, but that was actually a good quote she had there. Essentially, that we turn into a paraphrase. Hopefully, but then we get into the however. However, I know that temperature is going to be rolling back down soon, and that is concerning in regards to global warming. Okay, and the nut graph. Okay, people are kind of looking for like something here to basically give me this point to give me an idea, because it is a feature story, but it's also a news story at the same time. So they are looking for news. Okay. But they're hopefully by this point they're kind of hooked in by the stylistic writing and the engaging story, the basking in the sun, the sense of being there, the sense of feeling. Like I should say, they've been frustrated by the gloomy side, with the gloomy weather recently, but they're pleased that the weather has at least gotten warm. Okay. Like some students say, it's nice to have a consistent idea of what they're wearing. It's kind of what Joe got into. See, blah, blah, blah. Or you could say like, or even like it's frustrating not knowing what to wear or whatever. Right? That's it. Right? Hold on, everybody.
We can't save you from getting tagged in a wife-out video, but we can save.
Okay. Sorry about the monetization of the video there. Anyway, I'm back. Okay, so I hope that will just get back off stopping the share here. I hope that will provide you. Let me just see it. Actually, even my screen is frozen. So I hope that will provide you the what you need for that feature assignment. But I also that the first part of this video is very important, of course, talking about the Megalomania assignment and everything. So let's please try to get back on track for that. I'm full confidence that we will. Okay. This is kind of how you learn in journalism. It's actually better to really learn by doing than me just talking to a video. It's just me. It's just, so don't panic if you see an R on a story or something like that. It's just, it's easy to say don't panic, right? But I should know about that. No better to say that. But anyway, just saying that's how you learn. Okay. So, a couple of you said to me, and that's fine. You said, and I did it. And you said, like, I need to speak to you right away, which is fine. I mean, I don't mean to mock people. I'm just saying, right after that, I was perfectly happy to oblige everybody. I'm just saying that, don't panic. It's fine. It's just, some of you, like I said, you weren't that far away from getting what you need to get. You just basically, you had the essential the structure and that sort of thing. You just needed the stuff that actually made this more of a story. That's all. That's what reporting is all about, is really trying to, it's like that whole thing with the person who tried to set her husband on fire from the worksheets assignment. Basically, you keep asking questions, you'll find out that actually the motivation was the ate her chocolate Easter bunny, right? So sometimes you have to ask question after question to get there. It doesn't automatically get fed to you. Okay. The most unique element, interesting part of the story. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks very much. And let me know if you need anything.